the decisions made in The Last Jedi just by the fact, like, oh, well, it's supposed to be dark. Like, The Empire Strikes Back was dark. And it's like, well, there's a good way and bad way of doing that. I'm speaking of as somebody who initially liked The Last Jedi, and then I listened to you guys talk about it. I'm just like, oh, yeah, you guys make a lot of good points. I mean, maybe this movie isn't.
Does that mean you're
great,
a victim
like...
of like the alt-right pipeline or something? You've been radicalized into...
I was about to say, don't worry, John. There's a guy out there I think who made like a 7-hour video about how much he didn't like it. You can probably check that out, I guess. Maybe, I don't know. Just curious, yeah. Little suggestion. But yeah, I mean, it's that is the film that has been talked about the most in EFAP sort of history, because it's just the one. It's the baby. It's the one that changed everything for a lot of people, and honestly would be seen as the flashpoint for the current place that not only I guess sort of Star Wars and Lucasfilm are at, but also to an extent where Disney's at, and then also to an extent where Hollywood's at. You can definitely place the pinpoint further back. In fact, it's probably more accurate to place it further back, but it seems to be the one that everyone sort of sees as like, holy shit, it feels like there was a before and after with that film.
Like in terms of perception, like people initially
it.
liked it.
I think before TLJ, there was much more of a willingness to be like, listen, they're the ones making the films. We understand that they're the ones that know what they're doing, and we're the ones that watch them. So we go, hey, you know, that was kind of fun. Even the worst films would be like, but I mean, a lot of people said that they fucking, essentially vomited when they saw TFA. So I'm not going to speak for everybody. I'm just saying there was a general cultural shift.
I vomited when I saw TLJ.
There's a lot of people who, and this, by the way, this phenomenon was, I never saw it more passionately than with the finale for Game of Thrones Season 8, but there was a lot with TLJ who I think legit saw the film and were like, that was and then they went to the internet being like, is someone talking about this that captures my point of view? And then a lot of careers were born, including my own.
And EFAP and Mahler, yeah.
Hello.
We're here because of you, Ryan. Thank you so much for making that shit movie.
But I mean, kind of a dick for killing Star Wars, but I mean,
yeah, well, you take the good with the bad.
Didn't have to go that far.
Half a dozen in the other, as they say. Anyway, I can continue with his assessment of The Force Awakens.
Please do.
We're not done.
So, well, we're halfway. He says, the practical creatures, animatronics, and use of real locations and sets make the world feel lived in and realistic, adding to the grounded and tortured new characters. Kylo Ren in particular is captivating, enhanced by an impressive performance by Adam Driver. John Boyega is endlessly charismatic as Finn, but the real discovery is Daisy Ridley, who plays one of the best film heroes in recent memory.
Wow.
God damn, really? He said that?
He said that.
Wow, alright.
I wonder if he would say that today. You know what?
Probably not.
I think he wouldn't, because I get the impression this is, as we've said before, this is all very much just, he licks the finger, puts it up in the air and says, Force Awakens is great.
Oh yeah.
Then a few years later he's like, Force Awakens is good, and if he put his finger up now he'd be like, Force Awakens is a mixed bag. Oh, why?
The reason I was going to pick them on, because I want to know what, like,
John.
about The Force Awakens, even if you like that film, what is the pressing need to watch The Force Awakens before you die, as opposed to the other Star Wars films that came out in the 2000s?
Because why die happy?
Well, that's true, but like, on an artistic level, like, or adding to the galaxy, whatever it is, like, why wouldn't you pick, I don't know, even with all its flaws, something like Revenge of the Sith is a more, like, Star Wars and Star Wars.
He is a direct product of RLM, in the sense that he is 100% in line with them on the prequels. He would never express a difference. I don't mean that to be critical of either of them necessarily. What I'm trying to explain is you never see the prequels on this list. He considers it part of his identity to be that he can hate on it. I think we should probably cover his prequel reviews at some point, because that could be pretty funny. But
yeah, I could.
You know, like all of us, I assume here agree that all three prequels beat out The Force Awakens. In fact, they all beat out the sequels, just in general.
They beat out the sequel trilogy.
So,
they're bad movies, but they definitely beat out the sequel.
Well, the sequels are impressive in how they were written. In any case, yeah, he actually makes vague reference to what you're talking about. If I continue, it's going to come up. Says Ridley, as in Daisy Ridley's work here, is so real that I'm itching to see what else she can do. Another great addition was Oscar Isaac as Poe, a cunning pilot and a very fun character.
Cunning.
That's kind of funny. He's a very fun
Is he
character.
cunning?
Not really.
Funny.
I mean, you know, there's more cunning expressed by Finn in that
Finn.
scene. He's the one that kind of
Yeah,
does the work.
I don't know why he'd. I don't know why he'd. I wonder what he was thinking when he wrote that. Well, he wasn't, but I mean.
Don't know.
I mean, he's just not in the movie much.
No. And there's not even with TLJ, which I'm guessing, yeah, it was said it was written. This was written in 2016, so it doesn't even
Must
have
have
that.
been written before TLJ. Yeah.
The Force Awakens also breeds. Oh, wait, sorry. While it follows a similar formula laid out in previous films, that's pretty funny. The Force Awakens breathes new life into the franchise with its energy, its humor, its emotion, and above all, characters.
That's really funny. I feel like that's aged so terribly.
I think, honestly, though, this 100% matches what everyone was saying when Force Awakens came out. This was the take. Especially,
It does feel like The Force Awakens was kind of the first of what a lot of films were trying to do at that time, which is grab as much of like the iconography that people recognize of whatever franchise you're trying to like reboot or retool or continue, but like in terms of the actual substance is vacuous, and that like this was kind of early on where when you see all the visuals of all of like, wow, look at look at the TIE fighters, and look at the X-wings, and look at like the droids and everything, isn't that cool? That now that doesn't really work as much anymore. People are like, oh well, yeah, I mean, yeah, you can do that. You can make things look like things I recognize, but it's almost like now you're kind of sitting there worried like, oh shit, are you actually is it gonna be written well? Is it gonna do a service to the series that I like, or is it just gonna look like the thing that I like? You know, like it's fucking Halo, right? That was what that was.
I mean, like, TTFA annoyed me coming out of the cinema for that reason. Because like, I'm thinking, God, I really hope the next one isn't just Empire but bigger. But I could kind of understand that the rationalization was, well, you know, it's been a long time since Star Wars and the prequels weren't universally loved, so you can understand from the studio perspective we're going to do something that's familiar to everyone, get bombs back on seats, restore faith in franchise, and progress from that point. I didn't like the film, but I could kind of understand the decision-making process before. And then, obviously, the rest happened, and it got much, much worse. But yeah, now also, like, everyone else, as you say, everyone else is also playing so much on just member-berry iconography stuff that it ceases to, like, be a strategic thing, and it's more just laziness at that point.
I saw someone saying, I watched it in a video, and I was kind of convinced that Tron Legacy is the Force Awakens before the Force Awakens. And I saw them compare them, and I was like, oh shit, that's kind of true. Like, in terms of the approach they made the film with.
Okay.
Yeah, because that film
Did Tron Legacy sort of regurgitate what the first Tron did? Is that what they're kind of saying?
It was, that was supposed to be, at least from the evidence they presented in the video, this is so long ago that I watched this, they tried to argue in the video that it was Disney's attempt at making what Force Awakens ended up being before that, as in, like, this was going to launch a big franchise, but it didn't do well, and they were like, oh, fuck, abandon ship quickly, so that we can move on to the next.
I think I understand what you mean, because, like, Tron Legacy led with a lot of, like, it led with the bikes. The bikes happened really early on. That's, like, the thing that everyone remembers.
Yeah.
I think that Tron Legacy is a more imaginative film than TFA. Tron Legacy took more risks conceptually.
I
from what
remember liking
remember
it.
of it.
I don't remember
I like
how
it.
it stands
Like,
up, but the style was
It's
really
an
cool.
interesting looking film. The style was definitely cool, but like they introduced a bunch of like new conceptual stuff into, I believe they call it the Tronverse or something. But you know, you have the ISO creatures, like sentient digital things, which they didn't do anything with because they all got wiped out. But it took more imaginative leaps with its story than TFA did, certainly.
I would say so, yeah. Daft Punk, man. Was a great soundtrack.
That was
Oh, the soundtrack
really
was
cool.
So, yes, what I was getting at in terms of what he implies, this is the end of the paragraph. He says, it was so refreshing to once again see a Star Wars movie with entertaining, likable characters. So, obviously...
Name one.
Well, you probably fucking named the whole cast. What he's saying, of course, is that the prequels had no entertaining or likable characters. Which is just not true, come on.
That's not true.
That's not true. Obi-Wan was hilarious.
I think fucking Jar Jar was entertaining. He was stupid as shit. Like,
Palpatine's funny.
absolutely
He's awesome.
Palpatine, yes. I mean, Count
Yoda's
Dooku.
cool. Count Dooku. Good old General Grievous was cool. Like, it's
At least there were superficially cool things about it, even if you drew the line there.
yeah. I'll go for it.
What the prequels had that the sequels absolutely do not is that almost everyone who saw them would be like, you know, it's kind of shitty. But I'd like to see more of Count Dooku. I'd like to see more of General Grievous. I'd like to see more of Darth Maul. I'd like to see more of the Clone Wars. But, like, good. Like, can you give me that? Because this looks interesting. Nobody says, I gotta see another Poe Dameron adventure. Give me that, please.
The prequels presented much more fertile ground for, like, in terms of world building, it's really fertile ground. There's, like, a lot of things that you can do in that world that they did do through video games and stuff. It was really cool. Whereas the sequel era is, like, it's salted. It's really hard to grow anything out of that era, you know?
They're almost like polar opposites for world building. If you think of the opening of Phantom Menace, which you don't ever expect the Star Wars opening crawl to start talking about tax disputes and trade reform laws and all the rest of that stuff, but it's laying groundwork that allows the rest of the expanded universe from that point to pick up and tell more interesting stories with the world that's being created. And then TFA comes along and TLJ after it. It was just like, yeah, there was a New Republic for a bit, and it's kind of gone.
Yeah, I'm not gonna
and
say...
the First Order is just the Empire again now. They've been around, apparently.
Oh, absolutely. What happened when you really consider Force Awakens is it shrunk the universe hardcore. The problem with the prequels was like, look at all of this galaxy-wide conflict. Like, whoa! And then it's like, you can find out more in books, or maybe in, third-party elements or shows. But the movies themselves are not going to cover a huge amount of what's going on there. But you'll see it out the window, and it'll look cool. And you're like, oh, that does look cool. The sequels were like, everything mostly takes place like on a selection of what was TLJ covered, like 1, 2 planets? Maybe?
I guess you'd have 3, right, with Kanto. Oh, 4. It was 4.
Well, so
wasn't
wait,
it?
let me be clear, right? So the chase happens from their original planet that we don't even get to, like, it's a whatever. It's like a port. It's barely anything. Then you have Counterbite in the side story that most people think should be cut. Then you have Crate, which is the most important planet, but it's mainly a battle scene, Crate. It's not like...
Yeah.
Do you understand what I'm getting at? Like, it doesn't feel...
Compared to, like, for instance, in Andor, where it's like, oh, Ferrix, you've got, like, a really, really comprehensive view of that place, you know? Even, like, Morlana 1, which you only see a couple of times, you get a real sense of place from that one, too.
Well, and to go back to the OT, right? Think of Bespin.
Same deal.
Bespin occupies, what, like, the 3rd act? A bit of the 2nd act? But, like, you get to see life on Bespin, then it becomes very relevant plot-wise, and then, like, an escape scene is in Bespin. Like... Everyone knows Bespin. I mean, like, most people know Crate because it's like a meme planet in terms of all the shit that happened on there, like the love thing, kill what you, protect what you love, don't kill what you hate, whatever.
Star Wars has to keep going back to Tatooine.
Yeah.
Why does it keep going back? It's like, well, because you get a really good sense of place in A New Hope of what Tatooine is. And they don't know how to build worlds, or at least most of these projects don't seem to be able to build them. Like, how much do we know about that planet that they went